Head Agri at Pigment. Mr. Govilkar, afternoon. Thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now. And let's get a sense from you as to what the impact of the tensions in West Asia will have on global fertilizer supplies and in also an impact on prices in the global market.
Think the global fertilizer market is currently is in turmoil, mainly on account of the war at Iran. This particular belt almost caters to around 25 to 30% of the global supply of phosphatic as well as ammonia-based fertilizers. So that is causing significant damage as well as significant volatility in terms of pricing as well as supplies which are originating out of Iran as well as adjoining regions.
Right, so supply in the global market is expected to come under pressure. And what kind of impact is this likely to have on prices? If you can quantify the increase in fertilizer prices in the global market and in the domestic market, have the prices already risen or are they expected to increase in the foreseeable future?
So prices of urea in the international market almost has gone up since the war has started. So it was trading close to around $475 per metric ton. And in the last couple of days, we have been hearing that the prices have gone almost to around 530, $550 per metric ton. So there has been a significant jump in the pricing for the urea as well as other phosphatic fertilizer. I think till the time there is a disruption in the supply, we are going to continue with increased volatility as well as yeah, increase in the pricing, mainly on account of shortage of supply.
So shortage of supply is already having an impact on fertilizer prices in the global market, and that could perhaps spill over in the Indian fertilizer market as well. But Mr. Govilkar, do you think India's farmer community will be able to absorb this kind of a shock, or do you think will perhaps have an impact on Kharif season this year?
See, in India, most of the fertilizers are heavily subsidized from the government to the direct beneficiary transfer scheme. So, in this particular case, I think the government of India is going to take a significant share of the hit in terms of higher, say, capital expenditure on the subsidies of the bulk fertilizers. Farmers, from that point of view, may see a small degree of, say, jump in the retail prices by around 8 to 10%. But I think the major significant hit will be on the government, where they will have to maybe adjust to the higher cost of subsidy in order to make the fertilizers more economical as well as available at a relatively cheaper prices to the farmers.
So, do you expect the government to come ahead and perhaps increase its subsidy amount in the near future in the next, say, 10 or 15 days? Because I understand this is coming at a time when important and crucial decisions about the upcoming Kharif harvest have to be taken. So, do you expect the government to come out with a solution anytime soon?
I think government is also closely monitoring on the overall supplies of LNG. I think yesterday only the Ministry of Petroleum has given some notification that India currently is having adequate supplies for the fuel as well as for the natural gas. But maybe government is continuing to watch for the say volatility in prices as well as the supplies which is likely to get affected if the war gets prolonged. So maybe the decision will be taken in next another say 1 month with regards to the price for the fertilizers for the Kharif season.
Okay, so the decision is likely to be taken in the next 1 month, and the situation is fragile in the global geopolitical landscape. So perhaps the government will want to wait for some more time before taking any decision. But also, if you can put things into perspective for us in numbers, as a percentage of our total fertilizer consumption, how much do we produce in India itself, and how much is imported?
So India roughly say 40% of Indian total say supplies for urea as well as phosphatic fertilizers is originating out of Middle East. So that itself is quite significant. And Persian Gulf region is the major say production hub for this almost most of the nitrogenous as well as phosphatic fertilizer in the global say supplies for the bulk fertilizers. So in that particular sense, India is also quite heavily dependent for the supplies which are originating out of Middle East, and that itself is, I think, a serious issue at this point of time for the fertilizer manufacturers as well as for the government of India.
Okay, so Mr. Govilkar, if we were to assume that the problem in the global market is likely to persist for some more time, what alternatives that India have other than buying at an elevated price? Can we in the domestic market increase production of fertilizers, or can we source it from markets other than the markets which are disrupted on account of the Strait of Hormuz blockage?
Uh, there are other say sources also available, but they are like China is also trying to protect their own interest for their own farmers. So they are also trying to restrict the exports of say fertilizers as well as the raw materials which are used for fertilizer manufacturing. On the other hand, there are other sources from Europe as well as from Russia, wherein we can also get the required raw material as well as the required fertilizer. But that again will have its own logistic complications as well as the challenge in terms of the increased volatility in pricing that we may see because the entire global supplies as well as global supply chains are going to get disturbed as well as the entire buying is going to get realigned to the new centers. So we need to keep a close watch on the say surplus that is going to come out from the different origins apart from the Middle East in order to cater the demand for rest of the world for the bulk fertilizers.
Right, we get that point. Mr. Govilkar, thank you so much for taking your time out and joining us here on ET Now. This is a developing story, and it is perhaps too soon to predict what the impact on India's fertilizer industry will be on account of rising tensions in West Asia. But let's keep it going with that topic.